Hello and welcome, fellow awesomologists, to Awesomology. I'm Sue.
And I'm Ben, and in this episode, we're back with an update on our journey toward total and radical accountability. Today, we're inviting you to join us in an all-stop conversation.
You forgot the air quotes.
Air quotes.
Very upset.
All-stop conversation. Sue, do you want to explain what that means?
Absolutely. So all-stop is a concept that I picked up in the training world. It might exist other places. But you can really apply it, I think, to any multi-step, multi-dependency project when you have a lot of things that have to cascade together to get to an ending, especially something like this, which is we know that our project, quote unquote, project to get moved toward accountable teams doesn't really have a defined end. But it does have a spot where we'll be able to say we did that thing. Now we have to keep supporting it,
Yeah.
and orient people as they come onto the team. So
I'm totally going to try this at home immediately. The all-stop technique, just in the middle of the house. I'm going to
everybody
scream
just
it.
stop.
Everybody,
You're
stop.
done now, kids. Baby, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
Knock it off. So the idea behind an all stop is to genuinely cease activity. So where I've applied it before was in a training program that our credit union uses, and that I was responsible for. And the first 6 months of that was a massive amount of building, and you had to explain to everyone, you had to onboard everyone into the idea, we're going to do this thing, here's how we're going to do these things. And there were, I don't know how many, there was training, and everyone had to sign up for that, and there were other activities, and we were doing monthly things. And the all stop means you may have things scheduled, right, for the future, but for a period of time, you just take a pause, you don't add anything new to the program, and you assess everything that has already happened. Mm-hmm. And you talk about the good, bad, and ugly, and then you let that inform what is going to happen in the future. And what I love about the idea is I think so often we feel like we are on this treadmill, right, where you have to keep running or you fall off. And all stop really is your excuse to say, no, we're done running. We're going to turn it off.
Yep.
And let's have a conversation about what's really happening before things, pieces of this spiral out of control. That is my explanation.
Perfect.
For an all stop. So let's get started by talking about what is working well for us so far. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, one thing that I think is working well or has gone well as part of the process is we've talked about goals, and I think that that's something that whether we're talking about something like this that's a bit more abstract or less like directly connected to the day-to-day work that we do, right? I think by practicing goal setting and talking about what we expect to achieve in something like this is just as important, maybe more important, as setting goals with our everyday work too, right? So just like flexing that muscle or maybe strengthening that muscle is what I'm trying to say, to always keep goal setting front and center, and make it a part of as much of everything that we do. So I like that, and I like that we did that really early on when we should, to just make sure that we were aligned and as closely as we could be about like what we all expect to get out of this thing.
Right.
That's one thing. I have more.
Should we? Let's bounce back and forth. Should we bounce back and
Sure,
forth?
take it.
Okay, because I think I have something that aligns with your goal setting, which is the podcast being the spot for this particular part of what we're doing, that we're checking in on those goals, that we're talking about each one of those milestones.
Yeah.
And let me navel gaze some more about how wonderful we are. However, having this opportunity where we not only we could put this off, and we know that, and there might be people listening that wish we would, but but we don't. And the purpose going into it was for us to say, well, this is how we have to be accountable, and we have to keep ourselves on schedule, because it is so easy to bring something like this from a seminar, a webinar, a conference, and say, man, that would be really cool, and get just a little head of steam, and then that dissipates, and you're back to the same thing. So I think using our podcast as a mechanism to talk about where we are and do it in a public forum, as scary as that has continued to be, I think is an overall really positive thing.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I think that the easy justification for it is like, we were going to have this, if we're going to do this thing, we were going to have this conversation anyway. So why not bring, people into it with us? And, again, as scary as it might feel, to be a bit vulnerable or a little more transparent than we need to be, hopefully everybody benefits from that. We gain some accountability by knowing that we have to talk about it, and share that with others, and hopefully others learn something from it, or are inspired or something. So, yeah.
That's the hope, man.
Cool. Another thing that I think has worked well so far is we've had some conversations that we might not have had, and I suppose some of them here on the podcast, but also, conversations amongst our team and everything. And, we've talked about things like, talking about real issues and stuff, that's obviously a part of it. So I think just like, again, going way back to the beginning, being clear about some of the things that we expect to happen as embarking on this journey. That's one of the things that we expect to happen by taking some things that maybe otherwise would have been brushed under the rug or been, just a side conversation or a pocket conversation of some kind. We've put a few things out there and had some uncomfortable conversation, and we're better because of it. Even if we're not to a solution yet, or we haven't solved the thing that we put out there, but the fact that we all know how we're feeling, what each other are seeing, and all of those things, that helps us. That's one of the first steps, right, to actually solving for the thing that we're putting out there. So I imagine that there's probably more conversations that we could be having or should be having. And I also wonder if there have been, and I have no examples in mind, I am not thinking of anything in particular, but I also wonder if there's some conversations that we've had that maybe we didn't have to. Like maybe that's just something that we could have solved, or just like a one-on-one could have figured it out. But because we're, looking through this lens of like, hey, we're trying to uncover real issues and bring them, into the light, maybe we've brought some stuff forward that it's like, we probably could have solved that one without getting the whole team involved. And where that line is, and when you make that decision, yes or no, bring it to the group, real issue or not, we're still working through all that. But at least we're trying, and I think that, again, going back to the beginning, if we didn't declare that we were going to try, we probably would be missing out on some cool opportunities to figure some stuff out.
Right. Totally agree. And I believe now more than ever that one is an incremental change.
Yeah.
That every time we do it, right or wrong, right? Technically right or wrong. If you and I demonstrate that we can be comfortable having those conversations, and sometimes I think, especially when we have a conversation that really let me form a thought. Sometimes we will have conversations that I think afterwards, in a team meeting afterwards, I reflect on it and go, did everybody need to hear us work that thing out? Because it feels like we've maybe used a little bit of their time that we didn't need to. But I can have pretty much total peace with that, knowing like, well, how do they know how the sausage is made?
Yeah.
If we don't have those conversations, we don't have anything to hide.
Right.
And it is healthy, I think, for people to see that you and I can have a robust discussion where we perhaps disagree and come to an agreement at the end.
Yeah.
And sometimes that agreement is a compromise, and sometimes it is not.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Sometimes we end up realizing we both wanted the same thing.
Right.
But I think the team benefits from knowing that you can do that and seeing that modeled and have those conversations. And maybe particularly our team, who I think there are people on our team that need to know there is such a thing as healthy conflict.
Yeah.
And that everything we're doing is trying to align, and alignment is a continual process. It's not, you don't get aligned and then stay that way.
Right. Yeah.
So I think I have no regrets.
Yeah. And some of the stuff we're talking about is, pretty tactical or, attached to the day-to-day or job functions that only one of us needs to know and do or whatever. But again, by having that conversation with the whole group, it's kind of a sneaky way to do some cross-training. They've at least heard us talk about some of these things that maybe they don't have to worry about now, but they might someday, or they might, contribute to it someday.
Right.
So, yeah.
Exactly. Do you want me to take another one?
If you got another one, I only brought two. So
My gosh.
underachiever today. Sorry, Sue.
Listen. Who brings the notes? I bring the notes. Well, one of them is an easy one to tick off this list of things that we love, and we've talked about it a million times, and it's the decision matrix.
Yeah.
If we only accomplished one thing and did one thing really well this year, I would be happy for that to be the thing.
Yeah.
Because I think that has, you talk about continually getting new things into alignment. That is not an exaggeration, changed my work life. It has made it so much easier for me.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal to me. But the even bigger deal that has gone well and is really part of the inspiration for why I was jazzed to have this conversation, other than the fact that we're 6 months in, it's time to do this. So we have a teammate, you know this already, but I'm going to tell the audience, we have a teammate who left unexpectedly on leave. And we have a team that is specialized. Everyone has their gig. And everyone's really capable, but for the most part, when any one of us is going to be out of the office, our method has been get your work done that needs to get done, assign anything that you need to assign, and you're good to go. Well, with this teammate did not expect to be going on leave and has been gone a while.
Right.
We didn't have that opportunity for all of those nice things to get wrapped up in a bow. Yep. And the rest of the team did what I believe an accountable team does, which was basically say, our work getting accomplished is the success of our team. So the things that person can't do, we have to pick up.
Right.
And that leads to success.
Right.
Right? And because I've definitely been on teams where that's a much more complicated process. It becomes a lot of begging and canceling things and just, it becomes a real mess. And our teammates, once they knew what was happening and we said, like, the things that you can do, we're going to need you to do, seamlessly pick them up.
Right.
And to me, that's a testament. I don't want to say, like, we're so good at this accountable team. I want to say they're so good at understanding that one of the core concepts behind this, which is the team succeeds together.
Right. Yeah. Shared fate. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. A great observation. Something to celebrate, no doubt.
Yeah.
And it's not like like you said, it's not like we're doing anything perfect or whatever. And not like there haven't been some bumps along the
Right.
way, right?
Right.
Some things that maybe people had to learn. I heard a couple people working on something yesterday that clearly they were learning.
What
We'll just leave that there.
What you heard was swearing, and I am allowed to do that when it's bad.
Right. But you got there. You got there.
We got there.
Cool. What else? Anything else?
That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
All right.
I
good.
know.
I'm really glad. I was starting to feel like I severely underachieved. So speaking of underachieving, just kidding. It is important to talk about what's not working as well. So, what comes to mind for you there, Sue?
The big one that really comes up for me here is knowing that we have a lull in between every month. So there's we have the week that we're going to record the podcast. Mm-hmm. And usually leading up to the podcast, we are super focused on where we're at with this project.
Sure. Yeah.
And coming out of the podcast, we have a good,
fresh energy.
Yeah, we have lots of good energy. And every month there is a 2 to 3 week period where everything else takes over.
Yep.
Right? And the fact that we can re-energize this way every month has been our saving grace. Mm-hmm. But when I think about what could be happening differently, all I can think about is how much further along could we be? What else could we have accomplished if we did not have that lag time in between?
Yeah.
So I think it's the nature of the beast in a lot of ways. And I really am remaining positive that, hey, man, at least we have that week of time where we're really energized for it, and that's when stuff gets done.
Yeah.
But missed opportunity, that's what I worry about.
Yeah. Valid. It's really easy to imagine an alternate reality where we don't have the podcast in that, peak of energy. To where 3-4 months ago we could have said, okay, just kidding. That can go sit on the shelf, or we'll do that again next year, or whatever. Any number of reasons to drop it. So, I feel it with you as well. But like you said, I don't know. I hope I'm not just settling. I do feel like it's a little bit nature of the beast. Part of the process, and we've seen progress because we do have that regular check-in. So, silver linings, I guess. I hope I'm not just justifying it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the only thing we have to do.
Right. Exactly. 100%. Yeah. And so, I brought something very similar. Only one. So again, I might be underachieving today, but I feel like we've probably missed an opportunity I think we've definitely have missed an opportunity to have more regular, I guess milestones is maybe the word I want to say, which is, and again, here I go. I feel like I'm diving right into excuse mode or something, without knowing how this was all going to happen, and so much of this process being iterative, maybe it's just difficult to know where we should be in 2 months or 3 months or 6 months, where we are right now, like asking me today where we are and if I feel like we're quote unquote on track or not. I guess my answer is yes, because I have nothing else to tell me that we should be further along by now, or maybe we're further ahead than we should be, So all of that said, I do feel like if we had done a little bit more work on the front end to say, here's where we want to be by even 2 key moments between then and now, we probably would be a little further ahead, or maybe that energy could have been dispersed at least in a couple of months because we knew we needed to be somewhere by a certain time, So live and learn, maybe something that we can apply to the next 6 months, looking further ahead, what's something that we want to do by the end of the third quarter or whatever, So
Yeah. Excuse me. So in a project like this, that feels like a team decision, right?
Totally, 100%.
So I hate to, no, I don't. I was about to say I hate to reverse justify. That's a lie. I love to reverse justify. And here's how I'm going to reverse justify that. I am going to say at the beginning of this project, we could not have said to the team, where do you want to be in 6 months?
Right.
But today, not literally today, but at this period in time, we can go back to the team and say, here's what we've done. Great job on this. Celebrate this stuff.
Yeah.
Where do you want to be with this in 6 months? And P.S. If we can't come to that as a team, then maybe we need to reconnect on the positive things that are going to happen from getting this quote unquote up and running. Feeling like we have a way that we can share what we've learned with a new person, how we can continue to grow personally, all of that stuff, and then say, okay, where do we want to be in 3 and 6 months?
Yeah.
And let's figure that out together.
Yeah. I
There you
have
go.
already added it to our list of next steps.
That
we'll
is
be
my
talking
reverse
about.
justification.
I like it. Anything else that isn't going well that you want to dive into?
Man, I don't want to. I didn't bring anything else. I don't want to give everyone the impression that we think we're knocking it out of the park. I think I think I am trying not to dwell on things that are not going well.
Yeah.
Like we just have to do it.
Yeah.
Is my feeling right now, rather than too much really misstepping.
Right. Yeah, I think it's perfectly fine. I mean, at the end of the day, I think like to have a more like forward-thinking, positive outlook on this is probably better for creating an environment that we can like succeed in doing all of this. We could certainly pick apart things that maybe didn't go well or that we missed or haven't done yet or whatever. I don't know, but I guess, like I said, there's just so much about that, like we both have said. There's so much of this that is just like one step before the next or
Right.
iterative that I don't think it's worth our time to try and get ourselves stuck on something, So
Yeah.
and we've also both said a couple times now, like we acknowledge that we're probably not doing it perfect.
Yeah.
So let's just recognize that and go.
I don't know now in 6 months if as I'm sitting here, I'm trying to run through in my head everything we've said on this podcast for the last 6 months, and that's going really well. But I don't know if we have properly oriented the listener to the fact that we are building this. This is a plane we're building as we're flying. We have the book for inspiration, but this is not a packaged training or a packaged program that we can look at and say, do this and do that and create this thing. There are some resources that we've been able to create from examples in the book, but for something that didn't exist 6 months ago for us.
Right.
I think it's important to look at it through that lens of something that we're not following a thing other than the book. We're building a thing.
Right.
And that is a wholly different experience.
Yeah.
That felt excusey. I was making an excuse for why things aren't where I want them to be, but here we are.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't hear it as excusey, but
Okay.
jury's out maybe.
Yeah. So what things do you think we should change for the future?
So I already mentioned the milestone thing, so I think that's something that we've talked about. We can certainly dive into more, but I think we've got a plan there for some next steps and, acknowledge that would have been helpful along the way, especially maybe just maybe part of it, and I imagine some other teams would experience a similar challenge in like the natural flow of a monthly calendar, which heads up, the whole world works on one. But like you have beginning of the month tasks, you have end of the month tasks, you probably have some mid-month check-in type things, whatever. And then we have, like a regular schedule for the podcast and stuff. So there's just some natural like landmarks throughout a monthly schedule that, like, of course we shouldn't have expected anything else besides like some ebb and flow or some energy ups and energy downs when it comes to this thing. So yeah, here I go. I'm like justifying or making excuses, but all this to say, like, I'm not surprised by it. I do think we should change it for the future. To like pause right now and recognize it, I think is the best step that we can take today, and then let's do something about it. And I love the conversation about making it a team decision and using it as an opportunity to make sure we're all aligned, kind of like bringing them into this all stop process too, like here's where we're at, where do we want to be? So, yeah, as much as it might be something that we want to change for the future, there's probably also only so much control about it, because for the next 6 months, there's only so much control that we'll have over it, because for the next 6 months, we'll still be operating on a monthly calendar.
Right.
So we'll do our best. And I think, honestly, even if all that we do is we create like another moment to pause and celebrate, hey, we did a thing, or get us back on track, hey, we're missing the ball here, or whatever. Or we, create a little bit more of a like steady energy level on this thing. If we do that like one time in the next 6 months, the fact that we recognized it now will have paid off.
Right.
So
Right. Totally agree.
I do have another one, but we can do the bounce back and forth thing if you've got something.
Okay. Yeah, because I want to yes and you again.
Okay.
And my yes and for you is, I think we need to, I don't want to should on this, but I think it would be beneficial to think about those micro check-ins and what that could be, and whether that is sharing additional information, whether that is something like we have a concept of the month and we try and talk about that every week, like just something to remind people, because I genuinely believe that until we bring it back up once a month with the team, they don't really think too much about this.
Yeah.
And that is pushing us back into that like top-down leadership responsibility thing that we're trying to push ourselves out of, right?
Yeah. I have no reason to disagree with you on the point that the rest of the team doesn't think about it outside of that once a month, or whenever we bring it up or talk about it. And it might be okay if they're doing something with it or doing something about it all the time, and we just don't even have to acknowledge it because it's becoming part of how we operate as a team, right? So now we need to check that. We need to make sure that it's happening and not just assume it. So, again, maybe another question to ask or opportunity to explore that a bit during this all stop time,
Yeah. I've always felt that even if some people think it's hokey, and maybe you don't, and maybe you're going to tell me right now that you don't, the idea of naming the proper use of a skill is really beneficial to someone as they're learning. To be able to say that thing you're doing, you're dealing with a real issue right there.
Yeah.
Here with the rest of the team, that's great.
Yep.
And it just sort of steps you up from just being able to go after the discussion and go, hey, to yourself, hey, we really talked about some things that were real and that was great. But to be able to name it and claim it in the moment. Anytime, any of the things we've talked about, the shared fate, can't think of any other examples. You get it.
I mean, the decision matrix, who knows if somebody's referring to that from time to time without us even knowing about it, and,
right.
And there are definitely opportunities where they could be referring to that. They realize, oh, I have everything I need to make that decision, and they do it, and we have no reason to ever know about it.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah. Is it back to me?
Yeah, it's back to you.
The other thing that I think we should change for the future, and maybe this comes down to timing. Also, it's maybe one of those things that I could have wrapped up into like what's not working well, or what I would have done. I don't. Anyway, what it is I'm longing for more like organizational wide buy-in. So like our team is bought in, and our team is the exclamation team and the marketing team. But we're still very connected to Simplicity Credit Union. So that's an opportunity where I think we have an opportunity to I don't know, at least share, with the bigger team, but also for them to be bought into the process too, to maybe be on the journey with us. I think there's a big opportunity there. I think we're far enough in now, and we have shared this with a couple of people on the team, like to let them know what we're doing. And they sound interested, or at least want to hear like how it goes. So, I think at the very least, at some point in time, to maybe at another all stop point, or whenever we hit some milestone that tells us, yeah, it's time to like talk about this a little bit. I hope we get, or we should take the opportunity to share out a little bit, and even if it's like 5-minute debrief. Here's what we've been doing for the last year. Here's some tools that we put in place. If any of this looks like it might help your team, talk to us. We're happy to share, and not to come off as like the experts or the certified accountable team trainers or anything like that. But we have used some real stuff, and I can totally see on like maybe every department within the organization, but certainly some of the more dynamic, physically disconnected, but constantly in communication teams, like they could benefit from something like the decision matrix right now. Right now, so. And I think every team could benefit from all of this or some aspect of it, but certainly every team could aspect from the shared fate idea,
Yeah.
like everybody feeling like they're working towards the same thing and that they're all a part of it.
Totally agreed.
Yeah.
And thinking about the decision matrix, you definitely don't want other teams to have to go down into the weeds with you on everything that your individual team does.
Yeah, no.
But
yeah.
man, I am positive there would be some benefit for them to be able to see who can make what decision on our team, and to really streamline their work.
Yeah.
Because I think that there are a lot of times that all of us do this on all teams. You go to the person who is sort of convenient to you, maybe, right?
Comfy.
Yeah, exactly. The person you're comfortable with. And our teammates on the Simplicity team are great at going, well, I don't know the answer, but I can find it out for you. And that's wonderful. But also, if you went to the right person, you would save
wonderful.
somebody you really like a lot of time.
Right.
So,
yeah,
that could be really beneficial. Another thing I thought of as we're sitting here, I didn't write it down, so I'm not trying to out-achieve you here.
It's fine, whatever.
Is coaching. So we are trying to follow what Simplicity managers are doing in their coaching. I don't know what it looks like to try and merge the two. Sounds a little bit messy, but a little bit messy might be our brand.
Yeah.
So I think that there is a way that I could be talking more to the team, and you and I could be talking in my coaching, and you could be bringing up in your coaching. Like there has to be some core concepts that, having those discussions in a coaching setting and being able to talk about what are my talents, where are my gaps, what do I need to fill them, how do I understand these things, and what would make me more successful to achieve them.
Yeah.
That feels like a lot of coaching talk
Yeah.
that could be happening.
You mentioned monthly theme earlier. I think it was when we were talking about milestones or something. And that light bulb kind of went off in my head as you were saying that. I was like, there's probably an opportunity to connect this to coaching somehow. But if it's a straight merger or just making sure that, the monthly theme that we're talking about in coaching is somehow connected to the accountable teams work or the other way around, whatever, so.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's definitely an opportunity.
Cool. So
Cool.
we'll do that.
Yep,
We'll
done.
we'll do all this.
Done. All right, so final question, yeah? All right. Do we think we're accomplishing what we've set out to do? I can guarantee you I'm not going to have an easy answer to this one.
No?
What say you?
You don't have an easy answer? My answer to that question is it depends on what your definition of the thing we set out to do is.
Yeah.
Especially because, and in all seriousness, we knew walking into this that there are layers of things we are trying to accomplish. The end goal, the exterior end goal, is to be able to apply these concepts that we learned and help our team be more successful with them. That's the exterior goal. Help them to connect with them and make them habits, and ultimately with the belief that makes the team more successful. I think for me, the underlying goal was, can we take something, like, can we build this plane while we're flying it? Yeah. Can we take something that isn't handed to us on a silver platter? Can we take this and build this for ourselves? Mm-hmm. And is it possible to take concepts and of any training or any sort of concept like this? Nothing I'm saying is making sense, but to take all of that and apply it to your team while still keeping ultimate flexibility around it. To not say, like, here at 3 weeks, we must be doing this.
Sure. Yeah.
And everybody's going to fill out this form. And because I know from the training world, a lot of that structure is built from necessity, because you have to check things off. Yeah. And you have to make sure, and particularly, and I don't think it's different in any other industry, particularly in credit union training, it's like it's a numbers game. It is a moving people through that thing as quickly as possible, as and getting them as much information as possible. And you don't there isn't an opportunity to dwell on the individual nuances of other people's personalities. Sure. Yeah. It is like, learn the concept and get back out there and do the job.
Some of it's, required by regulation, right? So, I mean, it's just very black and white.
Yeah.
It's that simple. So.
Yeah. So to be able to take something that we want a group to learn and apply, like I said, ultimate flexibility to it in the timing, in the way that we approach it, in how other people interact with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's flexibility, and it's like awareness of the real world, if you can, that there are different people living in it, and that circumstances happen, and, like, the world's shape is changing every day, right. So to consider all those things and wrap that into something that is quite complex and also does still need to be, I mean, the whole object of this thing is radical accountability, right? So there still needs to be accountability along the way to get stuff done and see progress. So marrying all of that, right? Mm-hmm. The circumstances and the process itself, it's just not, it's not black and white. It's not simple.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. Does that get us to the answer that yes, we're accomplishing what we set out to do because of the nature of our team and the nature of this process? Or
in my opinion, I feel we are accomplishing what we set out to do.
Yeah.
I should point out the third thing that I would say we were trying to accomplish was to not give up.
Yeah, right.
And we are 6 months in.
Right.
And we haven't given up.
Yeah.
So that's a win.
Yeah.
And that's an easy win. That one I don't even have to reverse justify.
Yeah. Well, and what's really cool, and this isn't to say we should stop, but if we stop today, we could honestly, with no fluff, look back and know that we did some stuff, you know, and like really did create some change on our team. Lots more to do, way more to
Right.
go for sure. But, you know, I mean, just today, looking at the list of things that we've done, you know, what's going well, you know, I mean, there's plenty there to celebrate. So
So what do you think?
well, exactly what I wrote were 2 bullet points. One that said yes and no, and the second one said progress not perfect. So, like I just said, we've accomplished some stuff. We're doing some things. So, I have to say yes. Like we're on our way, or you know, we're accomplishing what we've set out to do. I do have this feeling though that either there's like just enough misalignment on the team or disconnect from the rest of the team, or maybe enough justified or unjustified progress that I wish we'd accomplished that we haven't, but also we never said we were going to, so why would we? You know, so
Right.
there's just enough feeling of like, we should be further ahead, or the team should be more engaged. Not that they're not, you know, all that. And I think that, you know, we kind of like got to the specifics of what I'm talking about when I mentioned that feeling, when we talked about some of the things we talked about today, like what we would change for the future, or, you know, what isn't working as well. So, yeah. So, and I wrote progress not perfect because I think that maybe, again, is my way to justify the feeling or the progress that we have so far. But we do have some progress. Is it perfect? No. But
Thanks for
Can I
keeping
say-
it. Thanks for keeping it
Yeah,
clean.
I know, right?
You can say the
You can
letter
bleep that out.
H
Can I?
on this podcast.
but yeah, it's not perfect, but we've done some things. So I suppose after verbalizing all of that to you, I can definitely comfortably be on the side that, yeah, we're on our way.
Yeah.
We're doing what we set out to do. And it isn't perfect like so many things in the world. And I imagine the next 6 months won't, but I have no reason to anticipate that they won't be better than the
Right.
last 6, you know, based on some changes. So
You know what we should do? I just had this idea right now. Talking about getting the team more engaged. It sounds cruel what I'm about to say.
they're not going to come on the podcast. Don't do
They're
it.
going to do the podcast.
Oh, God.
Well, that is exactly what I was thinking. Like, hey, you know what? Shared fate, babies.
Yeah.
Here we go. What, you know, I think that would be really fascinating
Yeah.
to say, you know, here's your, you know, this is your episode of the podcast. You other 4, you whatever you want to talk about around this topic, you know, and to hear what their feedback is and see what it's like to put together the thoughts for it, you know, that fascinates me. And the fact that none of them listen until we make them makes me feel even better about saying all of this into the voice recorder.
Right. Hey, that does sound pretty fascinating to me too. We'll start to work on it,
We can just make them do it, can't we?
I suppose.
Okay.
Alrighty. Next steps, huh?
Next steps. I think we've got some loose ends we have to tie up. We talked about pairing last time on the podcast, and we invited everyone to listen to it, and we have not gotten back.
Yeah, we
You know,
haven't checked in.
speaking of your loose ends and your things that we've lost momentum on, we haven't gotten back for that check-in.
Yep.
Speaking of life happening and everything being the way it is, we know why we haven't gotten back to it. That's because everybody has been stepping up and
Yep.
keeping things going with some volatility.
Yeah. We'll get
It's
back.
not even volatility.
Yeah.
It's somebody we like and we miss that
Yeah.
person and
Right.
just want them back.
Yep. We'll get back into it.
Yeah.
We got a plan for the next phase, right? Talk about those next 6 months and or maybe shorter even. And like we talked about today, maybe set some milestones alongside that and bring the team into that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
That'll be fun. And get them on the podcast.
Right.
You know, I love doing a podcast with you. You know that. I hope you know that. I hope I tell you that often enough.
You tell me often enough. Yes, I appreciate it.
But I am I'm totally off on a tangent right now. We also do an internal podcast with the team at Simplicity. And I am always fascinated at how different it is to do the same thing we do with a completely different person. And it always just really interests me to see, and I get the opportunity with that to have a different dynamic every single time.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't even know what my point was here, other than we have to get everybody else to do the podcast.
Yeah. Right.
I'm just going to keep coming back around to it. And there's another great reason we should do that. Well, we appreciate you so much, everyone, for joining us on this journey. Go ahead. You know what? Take an all stop yourself.
Yeah.
Take a week, listen to this podcast, then do nothing else.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Just take some time. But thank you for coming back to hear more about our journey. You can always follow us on social media or get in touch with us at our website, exclamationqso.com. You can find our episodes at exclamationqso.com/blog.
Excellent. Thank you, Sue. And thanks again, friends, for tuning in. Be awesome. We will see you next time.
The Osmology Podcast is a production of Exclamation Services. Thanks to Nick Mulliver for sound production and Kylie Ganther for our cover artwork.
Executive producers are me, Ben Bauer, and my friend, Suzanne Campbell.